Hello game makers. Today I'm going to show you an additional feature, how to augment the sprite of your character to show what weapons he may be carrying with him. And that's in the game Armed version 2. So here we have our frog versus clown game. As before, it moves up and down, and when you press the space bar, fires one bullet in the direction he's moving. However, when he encounters Excalibur, it becomes part of his arsenal and travels with him. Right? And he gains the super magical power of firing 4 bullets, one in each of the cardinal directions when you press the space button. So let's talk about how the sprite changes, what command we use to do that, and how the firing of the bullets change. So let's go back to the instructions. So we have our hero player. When the frog is created, we added a new variable called armed. And again, in the control is where you can set variables and set their values. You just drag the command over. In this case, we've created a new variable called armed. And when the frog is created, he's not armed, so we set it to false. And we have this object, the sword. What happens when the frog collides with the sword? The variable arm becomes true. Now we register the fact that he has this additional weapon. Okay. And so how do we make that visible? Well, there's a new event that I'm talking about called the draw event. Right here. And what you can do here is change the way your sprite is drawn. So if you put in a draw event, it overrides whatever sprite you have set up as the default and will draw each time, that is 30 frames a second, whatever you tell it to draw. So we do have the up frog sprite. That's under the, if you look at the bar right here, there's nothing that says draw, but if you click the arrow, there's a list of drawing options. The first one is draw the sprite. So we choose the sprite. You can choose whatever sprite you want, choosing the frog facing up at 0, 0 relative because we want it to be at the right place. And now we've added an additional optional part. Under the control with the variables, we have the test variable command. We're testing each time we draw the frog to see if armed is equal to true. And if armed is true, then we have a block of code that we execute. We draw an additional sprite. It's the same command, draw sprite. We've just chosen the extra sprite of the sword. And it's, again, the position is relative. X is 0, so it's directly above it. And Y is negative 32. That means 32 pixels up from the pictures of the frog. And relative, so it travels with the frog. So again, this draw command is if you want to customize how your creature is drawn. It does override the sprite that you have attached to it, but we can add that sprite with the draw sprite command, and then we can add whatever else we want as well. In this case, if the value of armed is true, we draw the additional sprite of the sword. And the firing mechanism. Well, that's the space key. Press the space bar. Okay. We have, again, we test when we press the space bar to see if armed is equal to true. Against the hexagonal one, test a variable. So we test to see if the variable armed is equal to true, and if it is, we have this block of code that creates 4 different bullets. So there's one in each direction, 0, 90, 180, and 270. This one, for example, 0, 0 relative, a speed of 10, and direction 180, which is due left. The other 3 are just the same except with different directions. Again, this only works if armed is equal to true. The else button, the else command, is what we do if it's not true. So if it's true that, or if armed is equal to true, we execute this block of code. If armed is not true, we execute this block of code, which is the firing of the bullet that we had before in the same direction as the frog, 0, 0 relative, so it comes from the same position as the frog. So we've just added the concept of a variable, in this case armed. It controls how the frog behaves when firing and also when being drawn. Every time it's drawn, we have this additional piece of code. So that's it for this. Feel free to experiment with it, and I look forward to seeing your games as we progress through the week. Bye-bye.